everyone, welcome to my podcast, Out of Office. This podcast is all about the story of travel adventures and cultures through different lenses. Hi everyone. Today I'm very honored to welcome Gitanjali from India. She has been living for Germany for 8 years. She used to work for non-profit sector and currently setting up her own business. She also has her own Instagram, The Confused Mother, that I would put in the link below. And currently she lives with her family in Berlin. Today is a very special episode because she would tell a lot of exciting story about traveling, especially with her daughter. So let's welcome Gitanjali. And first of all, could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, Lynn. Thanks so much for having me. It's something that I love talking about, which is travel. And we're very happy that you're doing this podcast. So I am, as you said, Gitanjali, and I've been living in Germany since about 8 years. I came here initially to study, and then I, after my studies, moved to Berlin to find a job. And then I kind of met my now husband, and we started a family, and we have one daughter, and she is 1.5 years old. I have been working in the nonprofit sector in India as well as here in Germany. And now I'm currently in the process of setting up my own business. I want to support women and international mothers living in Germany with help regarding becoming a parent here and helping them with practical things, as well as with getting back to the job after their maternity leave. And if they want to kind of look at different jobs, then what they can do. So that's kind of what my professional life is like. And on the personal side, well, I've lived semi-nomadic life for a very long time. I moved out of my parents' home when I was 18, 19, around then, and I lived in different cities in India doing different jobs, and I loved them. So I used those places as a base and to explore the areas as much as I possibly could. And I have lived in big cities and small towns, and I even spent 1.5 years in a small town in the Himalayas, like really high up at 3,300 meters, very, very remote, extreme temperatures. So in winter, it would go down to like -18, -20 degrees. So it was a very, very different life from your usual middle-class city life. And then when I came to Germany, it wasn't the first time that I'd been here. So I've also been to Germany a few times before that for work and for private reasons. So it wasn't that new for me. And I knew when I came here that I really wanted to explore the region. That's what I did then, and I still continue to do.
I really like the part where you talk about your previous nomadic life and when you live in also big city and small city, and also somewhere like really remote, some experience that not everyone can have maybe in their entire life. So after going through a lot of city, why you choose Berlin right now as a place that you currently live and also raise your daughter?
So Berlin is a crazy city, because it's so multicultural, and it's the largest city in Germany. So it's really got a great mix of cultures and people and languages, and there's always something going on. So it's just generally got a really nice vibe, even though a lot of people who don't stay in Germany, when they visit, they're like, oh my God, why do you stay here? It's such a crazy city. But I see it as a good thing. And I can't imagine living in like a small town outside of Berlin or something. Also, like we have gotten so used to the city life. So we live bang in the middle of the city, like really in the middle. So we're very well connected with public transport, and we can go in every direction, and we're out of the city in about half an hour, 40 minutes. So it's quite convenient. And also for my daughter, I think it's very important because we are an Indo-German family. My husband is German, so my daughter is mixed in that sense. She's half Indian, half German. And for her also, I think it's important that she sees a lot of diversity, because she shouldn't feel like she's the odd one out. And I want her to have a positive experience and meet people from different places and cultures and different points of view. So I think that that's really important for me, which is why Berlin is a great place to stay.
I also have to agree with you on this. Berlin had that kind of mixed vibe. There's a lot of things to offer, and at the same time, I feel like anyone can be accepted when they are in Berlin in that sense.
Exactly. It's difficult. It comes with its challenges. There are rude people, there are racists and everything, but the chances of having those bad experiences is, in my opinion at least, lower. I haven't had any negative experiences so far. I mean, people are rude. I think people are rude everywhere.
It's not about a city, it's just that people are rude, right?
Exactly.
Tell me about your most recent trip. So, as I remember, you told me, I think 1 week ago that you're traveling, right?
Oh, yeah. So I would not really count that as travel because we were visiting family. My sister also lives in Germany, and my husband's family, they are all like 4 to 5 hours away by train. And we visit them 2 to 3 times a year. So those are trips that we take. Train rides are interesting with a child. And now that she's getting more mobile and she's awake for so long, then there's a lot of tips and tricks, and there's a lot of things that you have to learn how to deal with when you're traveling with kids. It can become a bit exhausting, but you understand your child best, and then you come up with solutions to keep them busy. So it works quite well. So like for us now, this time when we went, we took 3 of our favorite books along, and we took lots and lots of snacks that she can, keep busy eating. And also like 3 or 4 of her favorite toys, so that she could then stay busy at least for some time. And then of course, looking out of the window is nice, showing them stuff, and walking up and down. That's why I think that trains are really convenient, because you can walk up and down them. And the kids then get some movement as well, and they see something different, see different people, and that kind of keeps it exciting.
Yeah, I think the combination of book, snack, and toys can keep everyone busy, including me as well.
Like the last travel that we had, I think that most interesting would be what we did at the beginning of this year. So last year, mid-December, we left our home. So my daughter was 6 months old at that point. 5.5, 6 months old. Yeah, so we left home in mid-December, and then after visiting family, we flew to India, where I'm from, for 3 months.
Wow.
And so that was quite a crazy trip, because we had no idea it was COVID, and the Omicron wave had started in India. We hadn't had COVID by then, fortunately, but obviously anyone who heard that we were planning to go to India was like, oh my God, are you crazy? Are you sure you want to risk it? It's so dangerous. Your baby's so small. Don't do it, and so on. But we said, yeah, people live in India as well, and everyone is fine, and I'm sure we'll manage, because we also have my parents there and some other friends, so it shouldn't be such a problem. And we went, and within the first 10 days we got COVID. But it was fine, because young kids, like babies and young kids, they deal with it really well. They rarely have very severe symptoms, and we also had already been vaccinated 3 times, so it was fine. And then after that, we spent almost 6 weeks at the beach in Goa. We rented a small apartment, and for us, it was important that the place that we stay has at least a kitchen, so that we can, like fry her an egg and make ourselves coffee, and like these basic things that you can prepare meals, etc. So we found a really small, cute studio apartment, and we stayed there for 1.5 months, and it was 5 minutes away from the beach. So every evening we went to the beach, every morning as well. And my daughter absolutely loves the water. She loved playing in the sand, and it was totally easy, And I think that what I've learned out of that experience was not to overthink it. I think this was the biggest learning, is to just do it and then see what happens. Like, we could have been scared, and we could have said that, oh my God, COVID, and we're going to stay home. And we would have definitely done that during the Delta wave, but we knew that the Omicron wave was not so severe. So we said, okay, we can still go. Yeah, and then we just went ahead and did it. And I think that one of the biggest abilities when traveling with kids, when traveling in general, even without kids, I think is important, that you are very flexible. You can't stay with your lifestyle and way of doing things and then also travel around the world and have an amazing experience, because your experience will only be very, very limited. And it makes kind of life more difficult for you. So that was something that was a big learning for me. Oh, and by the way, so after we did this 3 months in India, we even flew to Spain for a month.
Wow.
So we traveled around Spain as well. We went first to Barcelona, and then we went to Granada, and we have some relatives who have a house in like at the beach in the southeast. So that's where we went and stayed for 3 weeks. But it was really very, very different from Goa because it was so cold. We didn't realize that it was going to be in April.
Really?
It was freezing. It was like 8 or 9 degrees.
Really?
And
Oh, I
so
thought that the south of Spain, even in winter, is endurable. It's like less horrible than Berlin, so to say.
exactly. That's what we had thought as well. And the irony is we thought that, we would stay away from Berlin until it gets warm, but it was
Mhm.
so cold. And there were days when Spain was actually colder than Berlin. And I
Unbelievable.
said, and the thing is, we were not prepared for the cold. It was just we didn't have enough warm clothes with us because we left
Yeah,
most
yeah,
of the heavy
exactly.
stuff in Germany because we
Mhm.
knew we were going to India, and we thought, okay, Spain will be kind of cold, but it won't be so cold. And then when we got there, I think I had like two t-shirts which were long sleeves, and we made my daughter put on everything that she had to keep her as warm as possible. It was really, really cold.
But did you manage with the whole weather situation there? Because you stayed there for a month in Spain, and with
In
the
Spain.
weather
Mhm.
like that, how did you
We had
manage?
a we had to deal with it the way we just had to deal with it. So what happened was another thing was when we were in India, my daughter took her first steps.
Sweet.
It's in India, it's hot, so she had no shoes. But then when we got to Spain, we couldn't leave her running around barefoot anymore. So we went one day walking through Barcelona looking for a kids shop selling shoes, and we had to buy her shoes then. So that is
Mm,
basically what happened. So we went shopping,
mm,
which is fine. No, it's not such a big deal, but it's just kind of unexpected that,
mm.
oh wow, we have to buy shoes for the child. But it's crazy. So like with this experience of traveling in India, staying at the beach, because in India, in Goa, you have completely different food. You have a lot of fish, you have lots of fresh fruits and so on. And in Spain also you have like a lot of seafood, but they also eat a lot of olives. And my daughter,
Mm.
it turns out she loves olives. It's crazy.
Oh,
Like
that's
I would not
good.
have thought, yeah, I would not have thought that such a small kid would like olives, but she could eat and eat and eat, and it's still like that. So that's what I was trying to say, is that it's amazing because in these 3-4 months we exposed her to so many different things, different places,
Mm,
different foods as well, and she now
mm.
eats everything. She loves it. She loves every different kind of food, and she's very curious to try foods as well.
Cool. What you say is not overthink and just do it. And along the way, we can figure out a lot of things. And as you also explore a lot of new things from your daughter. So I think this is something that traveling can bring to us in order to discover about people and also discover about ourselves as well. So I
Mhm.
think this is a very great story.
Yeah.
Also, the stereotype is that most the parents who are having the kids like a few months old will not take them on traveling. So you did it. So I think this is a very brave thing of you, because I think that you would need to worry a lot and then prepare a lot of things as well in terms of logistics, so that you can make the trip as most comfortable as possible for your daughter. First of all, why did you decide that you would take your daughter to travel, and how do you manage all of the things? What are the process?
Mhm. Yeah, great question. So I think that this is something that we talked a lot about, like my husband and I talked a lot about before we had her. After she was born, she took her first trip when she was 3 months old. We went to visit family, and so she had her first train ride. And then after that, I did a trip alone with her as well by train. I took her to visit some friends at my old university. So she was with me then. I think she was around the same age, like 3-4 months old. In the first year of her life, this child has already traveled so much. And so what I was saying was that, my husband and I talked a lot about it. And I said that I'm not going to adjust my life to hers. I want her to see the things that we like to do, and then see if she likes to do them as well. And when they're so little, you can just pack them in your carrier and take them everywhere you go. And that's basically what I did. So I continued to meet my friends, go for walks, go out, like, because it was summer, then to go for picnics and, do as many things as possible. And of course, it was limited. And of course, it changed because I was tired or she had certain timings and we wanted to stick to them. But when she was so little, she could also sleep everywhere. So it was not a problem. So, we would be with friends at a picnic in their garden and she would be sleeping next to us. So it was totally fine. And I think that was the motivation to say that, okay, we're also going to travel with her because we love traveling. Let's see how it works. So last year in, I think, October, end of September or October, we went to south of Germany, to Allgäu. It's a nice mountainous area, lots of tourists as well. And we rented a small Airbnb and we stayed there for 10 days. And it was kind of cold, but also we had really, really good weather. We climbed a mountain with her.
Wow.
So there is this one mountain, which is, I think, 1,700 meters. In Allgäu, it's next to this famous castle, Neuschwanstein. And so we basically hiked up that, and we were really slow because I was still not healed from childbirth. So I was really slow, but we did it. We went all the way up, and then we took the cable car down because it got quite late. But we climbed up the mountain and it was fine. Because you were asking, what adjustments you make. So we were carrying her, right, in the baby carrier. And at some point she would get annoyed because it got too warm, she was uncomfortable or whatever. So we just took breaks and we opened her up, got her out of the carrier, and we put her down on a mat on the side of the mountain so that she could, move her arms and legs and play a little bit and look around and so on, so that she could get rid of some of her energy. And she was totally happy with that. 10 minutes of that, pack her up again, and then continue walking. And a lot of people were really amused. They saw us. I think we were the only, or maybe there was one more couple who had done the same thing, that they were carrying their baby with them while walking. It was great. So we said, okay, this works. So we're just going to keep doing it. And that's why we decided to go to India. And I think that a lot of people during their maternity or paternity leave, they go on these big holidays, especially from Germany, since they take the leave together. Then they use the opportunity to get out of the country and travel a little bit. So that's kind of what we ended up doing as well. And now, of course, because she's 1.5 years old, she's still too little to walk on her own for long distances, and she also can't be carried so long anymore. So you just have to adjust your expectations and your travel plans. So we said that, okay, we can't go on big, long, day-long hikes and so on. But, maybe if we go to the mountains. So I love the mountains. So if we go to the mountains again, then we find small day trips or small hikes that we can do. So you just kind of adjust your expectations of what is possible. And in terms of organizing everything, I think it's not so complicated, to be honest. One of the things that we have realized is that kids fall ill very easily and very quickly, and when you least expect it. So we always carry her medicine bag with us, so basics like a thermometer and the medicines, like paracetamol to reduce temperature. If she has a cold, then some nasal drops and, basic medicines like that. Is definitely good to have, because in case they fall ill at night, then you already have it there. But other than that, if you're staying in a town, you have pharmacies everywhere, right? So you can basically buy whatever you need wherever you are. So you don't have to take everything along. And there's this joke amongst parents, I think, that when you have your first kid, you pack everything along. And then with the second kid, you're just like, we'll figure it out. We are kind of in between, so we try to keep as many things with us so that we have less work to do when we're out there, but at the same time, not to overdo it. Like, we're not going to carry 10 packets of diapers with us.
Yeah.
Because we think, okay, we're just going to buy them once wherever we reach. So, and that's kind of the logic. And apart from that, like snacks and food and stuff, if they are old enough for it, then it's stuff that you have to carry for, especially like for train rides, plane rides, and so on. We don't do cars, so I have no experience with going on long car rides, but I've heard from other people that it's a nightmare because you have to keep kids busy for that long and they can't move and so on. Yeah, but we do train and plane. We are not fans of cities, so we don't usually go to like these big, huge cities to travel. I think one of the biggest places that we went to was Barcelona. And that was also fine because, then you adjust your trip accordingly. And if you want to do sightseeing, then you do it with a stroller or you put the baby in the carrier, depending on how big or small they are. It works out. I think, as I said earlier, it's the most important thing is not to overthink it, to just do it and see what happens. And like, for example, I could tell you in Spain, we were in this, I think it was in Barcelona, we were in this park, which is very, very hilly. And we went in there and we started walking around. It was super nice. And then there was one part where you have to go up or down a lot of stairs. And there was no other way to get around it. You had to go down those stairs. And then I thought, okay, we can't do that because we have a stroller. And baby was sleeping at the time. So, we couldn't have just like picked her up and said, okay, we go down and come back up. She was sleeping. So we said, yeah, we skip it. That's what I mean, like not to make too big a deal.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't work out, to say, fine, it is what it is, and then just do it.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. I think there's a lot of nice tips that any parents can take from what you just shared. And
by the way, so very convenient thing was in the first year of travel, what was really convenient was that I was still breastfeeding. So we had no problems with food. We didn't have to carry anything with us. I could just feed her. And when she started eating solid food, also, whenever we went to restaurants, we could just get her food there. So we would just ask them for something that she would eat, like white bread, or like a piece of bread, or some boiled, like some rice, some cooked rice, or boiled pasta, boiled vegetables, things like that. And they are very happy to give you a small portion of it, just like, a little small bowl of whatever you ask for kids without any extra price. So, and even if they take a little bit of money, that's fine. So, I think the biggest problem that a lot of people have is about food, is they are always worried, oh my God, what am I going to feed the child? And what do I, restaurant food is usually so heavy, kids are not allowed to have salt, etc., etc. So, I think if you ask in a restaurant or a cafe, they are more than happy to make whatever you want.
Yeah, I think as long as you really want to do it, then you would find a way to do it. And thanks for sharing. And I noticed that it's not from the beginning, you would take like a very big trip, but you would take, like baby step, and then going from small trips until a big one to India, like 3 months. So there are preparation in between, and you would also know and adjust the style to your daughter as well. So I think this is totally makes sense.
It's kind of the best of both worlds, no? So you get to travel, you have your kid with you as well. So
yeah, and I think that's also give it a lot of meaning, because you can share a lot of nice experience with your daughter, and I think that is something that really beautiful come out of it. After all of the trip, you went with your family, your daughter, and also the one that you went before that. Can you tell me a trip that's the most memorable to you?
Oh my God, there are so many memorable trips. I think that every trip that I've taken is memorable in some way or the other. I used to travel very differently before I had a family. And even before I met my husband. So when I was doing solo travels, it was very different. I did a lot of couch surfing. So that helped me meet so many different people. I did it in Poland and Lithuania and Latvia, Estonia, Italy. Even in India, I've done couch surfing a couple of times. And yeah, it's just crazy. I've traveled very, very simple, very basic. And like one backpack, and that's it. And then I made like a basic plan, and I said, okay, then let's see where it goes. what happens next. And that's kind of how I traveled through a lot of places. I think it was really nice because I got to meet so many people through couch surfing, right? It's a very relaxed atmosphere, and you just meet up with locals. So they also show you a different side of life in that city or place. And I think that makes a big difference. It's just so much different than actually being just a tourist in some place, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Another trip that was really memorable that I did was, it's now really long ago, it was 2014. I had gone to South Africa for work. I had a work trip there, and I spent a week meeting also different people for my work. And once I got done, I think I was there for about another week. And my colleague who was with me, she drove me around and showed me a lot of different places. And I stayed in a really nice hostel. So, I met up with a lot of people. It was so funny because I remember the World Cup was going on, the Football World Cup was going on. And I met
Wow.
girls there. They were like, oh my God, you speak German, so we should go and watch German football together. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this is so random. But it was a lot of fun. And, we played pool together, and we went out exploring, and I also hiked up the Table Mountain in Cape Town. So different things like that, and I think that that trip was very, very memorable because I met some really great people there.
Yeah, I think what makes the trip great is that there's a lot of random and unexpected things that you never imagine, and also like all of the nice people that you met along the way. I think that makes a memorable trip.
So
Yeah.
when I worked in India, I was working in a non-profit organization. It's a political foundation. We did projects in some very remote areas. Those work trips were also very memorable because we went to these areas in India where I had never imagined that I would go. For example, to the coast, which is very close to the Pakistan border. And we went to a lot of fishing villages there. And we met up with the fishermen and to talk about the problems that they have there. And then we went to these small towns in very highly militarized zones in the northeast of India. And we met up with people there, like really small towns, to hear about their stories and their experiences during the militarized era. And I would never in my life would have imagined doing something like that. And also, for example, the time that I spent in the mountains, it's crazy because I mentioned to you that it's a really, really cold region. It's a cold desert. So there's little snow and more ice. So it's all frozen.
Wow.
And there are some parts of that area which are not accessible until summer because they're completely frozen. And, it's just so cold that you don't go anywhere. So whenever, like, I was working with this organization that did projects with women's self-help groups there. So we would go to the different villages to meet with them to, discuss what their requirements are and how we can help them, how the project is progressing and so on. And I mean, we met up with these people and it was so crazy because they looked at me and they came and touched my face and my jewelry, and they were like, oh my God, I've never seen a person like you before. It's such a remote place. It was such a remote village that they had never seen anyone from another part of India before.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like that is one of the most memorable things that has ever happened to me is this woman who came and she just touched my face and she's like, wow, you look so different.
But do they look different as well, or
Yes, they
like
look
it's just
very different. They look
interesting?
very different. I mean, I'm sure you know that Indians are also, they look very, very different depending on which region and which state, lighter skin, darker skinned, hair, height, everything is very, very different based on which area or region you're from. People in the mountains, they also look quite different. Some of them have some more Tibetan roots. Yeah, I mean, they also obviously dress differently because their clothes are made for that region, right? They're made for that cold weather. And I have my jackets and boots. So even I look different from the really, really local people there. It was really interesting.
you tell me that you used to have nomadic life before. So is that kind of lifestyle that you had from the beginning inspire you to traveling, or is there any reason at the beginning that makes you really love to travel?
I think the love for travel comes from my parents very strongly because even they love to travel. My father has traveled to so many countries because of his work, and he also loves it. He loves trying out, and even my mother has traveled a lot with him, and both my parents are very curious about the world. So that kind of led to it because all the holidays that we had, we would go on small little vacations. It was nothing fancy, very basic, but we had the time of our lives. We got to see the beaches, different towns and cities, and eat different kinds of food and so on. Always there with us. And when I was 13, so I have a very close friend of mine from my childhood. Her family, they love trekking, like hiking. So her mum organized a trek in Nepal, and she said she would like to take us with her, so me with her. She put together a group of young people, me and some friends, to go on this hike with her. So at the age of 13, I actually went to Nepal and did the Annapurna Base Camp hike.
Oh, wow.
And then, okay, to be fair, we didn't finish it because the guys that we were with, two of them broke their leg, like they fell and they fractured their shin bones. We had to cancel so we finished half the hike. So we had to head back because they needed to get surgery and stuff. It was crazy. And the year after that, so when I was 14, we went and did Everest Base Camp.
Wow, at such young age.
Yes, at such a young age. And I mean, my parents, I think my mother, if you ask her today, she will say, "Oh my God, I regret sending you there because it was so dangerous." And you have to think about this. This is 1998, 99. Okay, it's a really crazy different time where there's hardly any internet. There's no WhatsApp, no Skype, nothing. And so, phone calls and regular messages and sending photos and all of that, none of that is happening. So my mother has sent me to this faraway place high up in the mountains, and she has no idea what's happening. And so today, if you remind her of that, she just shakes her head and said, "Oh my God, I don't know what I was thinking when I sent you there." I think that's one of the craziest experiences I've ever had, the most memorable, and that is also where my love for the mountains has started, because the mountains that I have seen, it's insane.
Definitely. If I was like in my teenagers and then I go to Everest Base Camp, then for the rest of my life, there's nothing that can be compared to that. Because,
thank you.
Right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That is it. There's nothing comparable. And somebody was saying, "Yeah, you should go to the Alps." And I'm like, no.
You have set the bar too high and there's nothing get over it, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what. And
That's crazy.
I would love to go back to Nepal at some point and go hiking with my family.
So I think that's the beauty of young age, like when you're teenagers and you have all of the energy and all of the mentality that you can try crazy things.
But I think also it's important that like your parents encourage it, because I would not have been able to do that on my own, right? I didn't have the money. And I would never have managed that by myself. So, and you're right, when you're at a young age, you don't think about everything that can go wrong. You don't think about how you can get hurt, or that it won't work, or that you can't do something. You just do it without thinking about it too much. And I think that that's an amazing attitude to have, which we unfortunately lose as we get older.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, we make different experiences. We have different experiences and bad experiences. And that just makes us more careful, cautious.
About the most memorable trip with your daughter?
So far, India has been the most memorable because she had so much fun, and she grew so much in those 3 months. She started eating solid food. She was curious. She met so many people, and it was really great because we were staying at this one beach. So there were a lot of other international families staying there as well, and some of them had small kids. So my daughter found some other people, or even I found connection with other people, and we would meet up regularly, and the kids would, hang out, and we could chat, and it was really nice. And because I don't know if you know, but Goa has these like really small beaches with shacks, that like restaurants right on the beach. and you have these small hotels or apartments that you can rent a room, and everyone was staying nearby. It's also easy if you're staying there for a long time, you can rent a car or rent a bike and just move around. And because it's so cheap for Europeans, I'm counting myself in that space because I also went with euros, right? Like not with Indian rupees, but with euros. So the conversion rate, everything becomes so cheap. And then you're like, I can afford to eat in the restaurant every day if I want. So we would meet them at the restaurant every day. We had like 4 or 5 restaurants that we would regularly go to. So you kept meeting each other. And I think that this kind of regularity routine also helped her. But I know we are in a very, very luxurious position, not just because of like the financial stability and so on, but also from the point of view of my daughter. She didn't have any health issues when she was a baby. I know that there are some parents who really struggle because their kids, they cry a lot, or they have a lot of health issues in the beginning, or they have colic, with a lot of stomach pain, and a lot of different issues can come up with babies. And because you're so exhausted as a parent, then you don't even think about traveling, because then you're taking all of this stress with you wherever you go. And we didn't have that, fortunately. I mean, she was a bad sleeper. She didn't really sleep very well. But apart from that, we didn't have any issues. So I know that we are very privileged. We could just pack up and leave and be like, yeah, okay, we're going on this trip now. It's not so easy. So, I mean, I can give lots of tips and ideas and whatnot, but at the end of the day, your kid has to play along with what your plans are.
I'm just curious. The love of traveling is what you have developed when you were growing up. So is this somehow affected how you raise your daughter now, that you also want to, like inspire her, even if in the future, maybe she wants to go to Everest base camp in her teenagers like you, would you allow her to do that?
Yes, of course. I would probably try and go with her if it's possible. No, but I mean, to be honest, okay, so about the way I raise her, it's a combination of a lot of different things that I think I want to give my daughter, like in terms of values and habits and so on. And a lot of it is also from the way my mother raised us. And I think like this, this love of traveling, they gave me, and now I'm giving it to her in that sense, right? So I'm just passing it on. Also the love of books. My mom always encouraged us to read a lot of books, and here my daughter, she loves books. Because I love books and I bought her so many, and she loves looking at them. So, in this way, I'm also giving her a lot of the positive things that I got from my parents, I'm giving on to her, because I think that those are really valuable. And I appreciate them, so I pass them on. At the same time, we have this situation that I'm Indian living in Germany, and I want to also give her as much Indian culture and upbringing as possible. So it also comes up in terms of the food that we eat. I speak with her in my mother tongue. Like all of these things, I have to make sure. And part of that is the culture. Part of giving her the culture is the country, right? So like my husband and I have come up with this plan that we say every 1.5 years we will, or 2 years, we will go to India and spend as much time there as possible with her grandparents, but also, showing her around and for her to just see the other half of her heritage. That's really important. Yeah, I mean, in terms of traveling, I don't know if I would be happy if she wants to do like really dangerous things. But on the other hand, I am doing them, or I did them, and I will have to try and find my way to make peace with it. Oh my God, I don't know. Now that you asked me, I started panicking. But yeah, let's see. I have no idea.
I mean, if we're parents, we have always all the worries, and of course we want the best, right? But to find a balance point between unexpected thing can happen, and also like you want the best experience for them, it's always hard because you have to find a balance point for those two things.
Definitely. Yeah. And even with daily life over here, right? Like I try to leave her alone to explore, like at the playground or outside in the park or something. I also leave her alone. I don't like try to control everything that she's doing, but I want her to feel free and, do whatever she wants and play however she wants. And I think that is also a very important aspect of raising kids, is what you're saying, like to just let go when they want to do something. and obviously take care of them also, but not to overdo the paranoid caution. Yeah, I mean, it's something that we have to figure out.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the toughest job for parents to find a balance between all of that. Thanks for all of the sharing. I think that you have been to all kind of culture already. There are not a lot of culture shock because you experience a lot, or in any place that you go that you have some culture shock from that place as well.
Some of the culture shocks that I had were when I actually came to Germany for the first time. So my sister was already living in Germany, and I visited her when I was 18 at her university, and I stayed with her for, I think, 6 weeks. That was when I had my most culture shocks, because I came here and I thought, oh my God, why is it so quiet? That was a really weird feeling for me. Is that this, like on Sundays, I'm talking about 2002, okay? So it's like a really long time ago. And then, there weren't so many, like life was quite different in Germany back then as well. A lot has changed since then. Sundays used to be extremely quiet, and we went out and I said to her, like, where the hell is everyone? And she said, yeah, it's Sunday, they're at home. And it's completely alien to me, because in India, you're always with people. You have, Sundays are some of the busiest times, even in the markets and in the streets, because the shops are open. That's when people have time to go out and do stuff. So it was a really strange feeling. That was one thing. And then also about the food, I think was a weird, for example, the Blutwurst, the blood sausage.
Yeah, I feel you.
No, that's not what I'm eating. And then there's also some other, I don't know what it's called. It's called Sülze. I have no idea what it's called in English, but it's really like the animal gelatin fat. I have no idea what it looks like. It's kind of made into a sausage, and it's just really, really gross. And I said, well, I'm definitely not eating that. Coming from India to Germany, that was like a real cultural shock for me in that sense. But you're right, because I've been to so many different places, it wasn't there's very few things that shocked me. There are things that surprise you and that are interesting or amusing or whatever, yeah, for sure, but nothing that really, where I thought, oh my God. Oh yeah, and of course, the naked people. The FKK.
Exactly.
I saw them in Munich. I remember when I did like a weekend trip back then to Munich, and we were walking through the Englische Garten, and there were a couple of people, and I said to my friend, are they naked? And she knew about them. So she told me, and I didn't know where to look. I just felt so awkward, because coming from India, it's just not something that you are used to, seeing naked people just like walking around, living their life, enjoying some sun in the park. It was just completely alien to me. So yeah, I think those are like 2 or 3 things that happened back then, which were really, really shocking for me. But amusing. I can tell you a really funny thing that when it happened, I couldn't stop laughing. So I told you that I lived in this small town in the mountains. It's called Leh. The town is called Leh. I stayed there, as I said, for 1.5 years, and the winters there are so extreme. So when you shower, you put your towel out to dry, and I would put it outside on the clothesline in the garden. And it was, I think, 10 or 11 in the morning. And I even have a photo. I don't know if I've got it somewhere that I can share it with you. My towel froze. So
Crazy.
I have a photo of my towel, and there's like icicles formed on it at like 11 in the morning, because it was so cold that the water from my towel just like dripped out and froze. And, and then, speaking of frozen, everything would freeze. So even eggs would freeze, tomatoes would freeze. It made it very difficult to cook sometimes. So you had to keep them in the kitchen, make them warm, and then use them. So it was quite funny. And, my mom asked me if I don't find it challenging. And I never found it challenging. I only found it funny, because it was just like, what the hell is happening? Why is my food frozen? Or why are my clothes frozen? It was just
Yeah.
funny anecdote I thought I should share.
Yeah, I think it's all about the perspective, right? It's whether you acknowledge as something amusing to you, or either you
Exactly.
consider it as difficulty. So I think it's just like a point of view. And come back to the culture shock, I think I quite feel you on those, like food, quietness, and also the which I think for me is totally different. I come from Vietnam. I think we've never experienced that before.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I think now we almost approach to our last part. Actually, I have one question for you. Among all of the places that you've been to, or in the future, if you have to live there for the rest of your life, where would it be?
Oh, if I want to live there for the rest of my life, it's very difficult to say. I mean, I've been living now the longest time that I've lived in any place apart from my childhood home is Berlin. I've been here for 5 years now, and I think that we're going to stay here for at least another 5 years. But I would really like to stay also in a smaller place. There are times when I feel like that it would be nice to stay in a small place. I remember for a long time thinking, after I visited Italy, I said, wow, I would love living in Italy because the people are so similar to Indians. They are also, very, very passionate. They love food. They are loud. And
I also have the same thinking.
and I felt like that could be a cool place to live for at least some time. But I haven't traveled around Italy. I've only seen like Tuscany and Rome. So I've not seen so much. I don't know the other parts, like the north and the south, I've not seen. Yeah, I can imagine that would be a cool place to live. I was talking to my husband about living in Australia because both of our best friends live in Australia. And I said that that would be quite cool. And his argument against it is everything is trying to kill you there. Like all the animals. The animals are so dangerous.
The insects and also maybe the weather as well.
Exactly. Something or the other is always up in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe Italy could be cool, but I also really like the mountains in India. I would live there anytime. Anytime.
I also love the south of Europe, and specifically like the south of France is also really nice. It's just that people always speak French, so I'm kind of I'm always confused.
No.
But apart from that, I also think that I could live in the south of France as well if I have all of the financial and my job allows me to do so. And so the last question, do you have any message that you want to send to all of the audience or to the audience who are currently parents about the love of travel? Just pack your bag and go travel.
Yeah, so my advice is really, as I said earlier as well, don't overthink it. Go to wherever you want to go, and you'll figure it out. And ask people for help, even if you think that it may not work. The worst thing that can happen is they say no. And so I can only encourage you to travel to as many places as you want with your kids. And kids are really curious. They are very resilient. They love doing stuff, and they will have the time of their lives. And I hope you do too. So I think that's all I have to say. I think I gave all my tips during that.
Yes.
And and if you have any questions about traveling with kids, you can find me on Instagram as The Confused Mother. And I am more than happy to have a chat and, I don't know, help you plan your travels with your kids if you want.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I also wish that you would have a lot more and more adventure with your family and also with your daughter in the future. And
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Yeah. And for sure,
it would
always turns out. Yeah, me either. I think I really enjoy the talk. I hope that maybe after you come back from other trip in the future, we can definitely do another episodes as well.
A second version. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And have a nice weekend.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Okay, speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.